So today we are going to continue from the exceptional handling where we left. So let me quickly give you a recap of what is exception, and then we'll move on to. There were two topics which were left yesterday in the last class. That was one is throws keyword, and second one is throw keyword. So let's quickly have a recap what we studied earlier, and then we'll continue with throws and throw. So what is an exception? An exception is some unwanted event which occurs during the execution of a program or code that disturbs the normal flow of execution. So you are executing your code and in between something unexpected occur that will just break the flow of the code and will take you to some unexpected position. Say for example, the example is that you want to read from a file, and when you're reading from a file, um, you get an exception that file does not exist, that file is not there at all. So what you're going to do in that case? Uh, and then there is another example that you have an array, let's say an array of size 10, and you're trying to access its 11th element, which is not there. So again, you'll get an array out of bound exception. So these are certain examples. So it's always important to handle all these exceptions to save your code from irrational behavior. So if you'll not put any exception handling, you will get some unwanted behavior. The mechanism of handling runtime error or exception is known as exception handling. Some of the exception occur due to user error and some due to programming error. Based on this, we have classified into three categories. One is errors, second is checked exception, and third is unchecked exception. When we talk about errors, errors are something which we cannot control. They are something uh, which occurs due to certain unwanted conditions, like let's say heap memory get full or uh, stack overflow occur, or power failure occur, and so on. So you don't have any control over it, and we are not going to discuss this because being a Selenium automation engineer will never face these issues. I mean, they are very rare to be followed because our code will not extend to that level. Then, talking about the checked exceptions, these types of exception can be caught at compile time. So, for example, you're trying to read a file using file reader class. At compile time, your compiler will prompt you to handle an exception called file not found. So, certain exceptions, uh, certain type of exceptions are written in such a way that they will be handled at the compile time itself. So even you don't have to compile your code to get those. Your Eclipse will prompt for those exceptions at the time of writing the code itself. So that is known as checked exception. Then comes the unchecked exception. Unchecked exception are the one which cannot be caught at compile time. Programming errors or logic error are also considered as unchecked exception, and generally we have to handle them separately. Okay, and that comes with experience, and that comes with at the time of development, you when you'll execute your code, at that time you'll find these exceptions. Okay. um, when you are handling any exception, before that you should know the hierarchy of exception classes. um, Now, when I say hierarchy, what does I mean? I mean that which all are the classes which can handle different type of exceptions. So starting will always be from object class. As you know, in Java, everything starts with an object class. All other classes inherits object class. So object is always the first class. Then in object we have two. One is error and second is throwable. Error, sorry, not two. It has only one, that is throwable. Throwable has two. One is error and second is exception. Error takes care of uh, all the unwanted thing, like say for example, if power failure occur, or something like that occur, that comes under error section. So we don't have to worry about that. Then comes the exception class. Okay, now in exception class we have two. One is checked and second is unchecked. So checked has a long list. Unchecked comes under runtime exception, and then runtime exception also has a long list. So if I talk about the list, this is the list, and then this is not only, these are not only the classes, then there are certain classes which are subclasses of these, like there is one index out of bound. So in index out of bound there are two, array index out of bound and string index out of bound, and so on. Okay, so we in the last class we also discussed how to check these exceptions. So you just have to go to Java documents and see what are the exceptions available. Okay, then there are a few of the exceptions which I have noted down here. They are the frequently one, encountered frequently one. So you can see arithmetic exception is there, illegal argument exception is there, and I also discussed that how you can go to Java docs and check what does a particular exception type says. Okay, then comes the exception handling part. So we started with something known as try catch block. What does try catch block means? We put our code which is expected to throw an exception in try, and then we have a catch block. Catch block is something which will handle the your exception. Say like the code which is expected to throw any exception, I'll put that in try, and then I'll put catch. In catch you can just catch that exception. There can be multiple catch statements. The only point to remember is that when you're putting multiple catch statement, it should always be in a hierarchical order, and that too from down to up. So the least, the class which occurs at the lowest point in the hierarchy should come as at first. Okay, so I gave an example. I started with an example yesterday. So here you can see this particular class, the code we have written in the try is expected to throw some exception, and that will be handled in either this or this or this. Okay, so here if you look at properly, how it works is whatever exception occurs, that will go in these catches one by one, and but the execution will happen only for one catch. Okay, so if from the above code any array out of bound exception will occur, that will go in the first catch block. If any exception other than array index out of bound, let's say string out of bound exception occur, then it will go in the second block, that is here, because this can handle both array as well as string, but array will be handled here itself, so only string will reach here. If any exception other than array or string occurs, that will go inside in this catch block. Okay, so this is how the exception handling is done generally. What we achieve from here is for different type of exceptions, you can do different things using this. If you think that all the exception you want to handle in the same way, then remove all other catches, keep only the last one, and do whatever you wish for. Okay, any questions till now? Okay. Then after these multiple catches, there comes another thing, that is finally. What does finally do? Finally is something which executes no matter an exception is occurring or not. So in above code, if an exception occurs, then also this finally block will execute. If there is no exception, then also this finally block will execute. Now, why you need finally block? I gave one example in using the Selenium. In case of Selenium, let's say you are automating a scenario where you have these things to do. Like first of all, you are invoking a browser, then you are navigating to a URL, then you log into an application. I'm sorry. And then you are log into an application, then adding a customer, and then you are closing the browser. Now, for the first four steps, if any exception will occur anywhere, it will come out of your code and rest of the methods will not execute. Say for example, if an exception is occurring at the login, no, this add customer and then closing the browser will not execute. Or if some exception is occurring at in the add customer, then closing the browser will not execute. Right? So what will happen because of this? If your browser is not getting closed at the end, then there will be some unwanted browser instances which will remain open, right? So, but we don't want that. If I'm executing any situation, if your test case is getting passed or getting failed or some exception is occurring, in all the cases, you want that at the end, all the cleanup part should happen. So for that, what we can do is at the end, we can add a finally block. Okay, just like this, we can add a finally block and we can put this last method, that is closing the browser method, in that. It will be executed no matter if all the four executes without any exception or an exception occur in any one of the method. In all the cases, this closing the browser will occur. Okay, so that's one point in invoking the, and that's one point in finally block. Any questions now? Okay, then after this finally block, yesterday I just started with this, but we couldn't complete, so let me start it again. So again, the same example I'll take. Next topic which I'm going to take is throws keyword. But before I jump on to throws keyword, I want to show one scenario which because of which we need throws keyword. So just consider another example that you have invoking a browser. I mean, same example we'll consider that we have invoking a browser, then we have navigating to a URL, then we have login, then we have add customer, and then we have closing the browser. Okay.
Saurabh, one thing.
Yeah, Jason.
In the final tag, if we put that quit browser, so it will gonna work.
Yeah, it will execute at the end for sure. Yeah.
Okay, no, thanks.
Okay. So now here, invoking a browser, then navigating to a URL, then logging in, then add customer, and then closing a browser. And let's say, unlike the previous example, all these methods are written in separate, all these things are written in separate method. Invoking a browser is a separate method, navigating to a URL is a separate method, then we have login, then we have add customer, and then we have closing the browser. Okay, so just consider an example that I've written invoke browser, and this method is just doing invoking a browser. I'm not actually doing anything, just printing the statements, and we are doing the exception handling using tag catch block. So this is one method. I'll just copy it and paste, let's say, another method where we will say login. Okay. In this method, I'll simply say login to Guru 99. Okay. Then I'll write another method, and this time I'm naming it as, let's say, add customer. And let's say this add customer is something which is throwing some exception. Okay. Or let's say not this add exception, let's say this logging is causing some exception. So for example, I'll just copy paste the this method. Uh, so this is expected to throw some exception, right? So we have written the same code which will throw some exception, and then we have written the add customer, and at the end I'll write close browser. Okay, so these are some methods we have written. Now I'll just create another class and I'll name it demo exception handling. Okay, and then we'll keep this public static void main, and we'll call those methods one by one. So first of all, we have to create the instance of exception class. So it will be exception handling. You have to take one from day 13. Let's say eh equal to new x. Okay, incorrect spelling. Then it will be eh dot. First of all, we'll invoke a browser. Then we will log in. Then we will add customer, and then at the end we'll close the browser. So all these methods I've just called them one by one. Okay. Now when I execute this code, see, the code I've written is to execute these statements invoking a browser, then login. I've not written this, a login, add customer, and closing the browser. Now tell me, if your login fails, do you want your add customer to be executed? If I'm not able to successfully log into my application, does it make sense to add a customer? Yes, no, no, right?
No,
But the implementation which we have written, what do you expect? What does it do? When I execute this code, you will observe that even though your login method has thrown an exception, okay, other two methods are getting executed. Okay, I guess I have not changed the message. Okay, so here you can see that even though my login has failed, still it is calling add customer and closing the browser. Okay, so why does this happen? This happened because exceptional handling is being done in the called method. Now, what is called method? If we check here, this method, which is main method, this method is calling these method, and these method invoke browser or login or add customer or close browser. All these four methods are called method because we are calling them, and this is calling method. Main is a calling method, whereas these are called method. So if you do exceptional handling in called method itself, then at the time the method will return from here, there won't be any exception. What do I mean is, when this first method executed, it went inside this invoke browser. Okay, so this method executed, there was no error, everything was fine. Then once this is executed completely, then it will go back. It will go back here. It will come to login. Now execute this login, when we execute this login, it will go in the login method, and when it executes, an exception occurred. From here, an exception occurred that went into this catch block. That exception was handled properly, and then after the exception was handled, when it came back, there was no exception because that was handled here itself. That means once a login method executed, an exception occurred that was handled in the catch block, and then when we are coming back, there is no exception. That means after the 11 number line number 11, there is no exception. So when it will go to this add customer, there is no exception at that time. You can simply move to this add customer, and this add customer will execute the code. Okay, so add customer will execute the code simply, and then closing the browser will execute. So this is one of the problem we face when we do exception handling in the methods or in the called methods itself. So that's why it's not a good idea to put try catch in all the methods. Rather than that, we can follow another approach, and that approach is, I'll just create another class and will show you. So I'll just copy this, paste, and we'll call it, let's say I'll just add throws keyword along with it. Okay, so in all these methods, instead of handling the I mean, instead of handling exception here, what you can do is you can add one statement with the method stating throws and then exception. Okay, you can give any name of the exception. You can give multiple names of the exception also, like array out of band exception, then comma exception, and so on. Okay, so this will here also I'll simply say throws exception. I'll copy these and we'll remove this try catch. Okay, we'll remove this try catch. From here also I'll remove try catch. Okay, so I'll put this throws keyword here and I'll put, yeah. So when we execute this code here, you will observe that uh, once, I mean, okay, which one is this? I have to execute this one, right? So here you can, okay, this is still calling the same, my bad. So I need to create another demo class, copy, and then paste. Okay, in the throws, I'll just change these classes. Okay, and here you can see now they are prompting me with one error. If you hover over this, they are saying unhandled exception type exception. As we have written the code in such a way that we are expecting to throw some exception from here. Here at the compile time only they are giving me one error stating that we have not handled the exception. We need to surround this complete code with try catch. So I'll just put try catch. You can see the code is in surrounded with the try catch now, and the shortcut to do that is just select all those statements which you want inside this try catch, just like this. Just select all of them, then the shortcut is shift alt Z and then select try catch. Okay, so here you can see that now invoke browser, login, add customer, and closing browser is like this. And when I'll execute the code now, you will observe that after login, when we got an exception, nothing else is executed. How this happened? This happened because this executed without any exception. When this method came and an exception occurred, that exception, like in this method, when in the login an exception occurred, there was no try catch inside this, and we have written the statement stating throws exception. So what does this do? Whatever exception will occur here, it will throw it to the calling method. That means that exception will come here. Okay, now there is an exception in line number 12. So that exception will go in one of the catch block and the statements written after that will not be executed. So it will go, this will throw an exception and it will be catched here. Okay. And like this, you can have multiple catch statements and those those exception, sorry, those exception will be handled in one of the catch block. Clear? Any questions?
So do we need to write multiple catch statement to handle add customer and close browser?
No, no, no. Uh, I mean, multiple catch statement is for different type of exceptions. Okay. From there, we are throwing exception, and exception can handle any runtime exception, right? We are throwing exception here, right? If we are throwing exception, if you recall the hierarchy, this exception can handle all the runtime as well as all checked exceptions. So all the runtime and checked exception can be handled here. Okay, but if you are explicitly sending any exception and want to handle it separately, then you can add another catch blocks before this. Getting the point?
No,
Sh- sure, right?
no, no. I'm saying I'm not getting the point.
Okay, you're not getting the point. Okay. See, what I'm saying is, from here, see, instead of this throws exception, I could say array index out of bound exception. It is throwing array index out of bound exception. Okay. Now here you have put this exception. If so, that means, uh, see, if I change it to array index out of bound, okay, still it will give me an error. Why? Because see, there are multiple methods written. The first one is throwing exception type. Second one is throwing array index out of bound. Similarly, others are also throwing exception, right? When you come here, if you look at this, out of these four methods, the second one is not throwing any exception, not stating any exception. Why? Because the second method is expected to throw only array index out of bound, which I have already handled. But I have not handled the other one. So to handle the other one, I'll just copy it, put another catch, and here I'll say exception. Okay, so now the remaining exceptions, that is this exception is also handled. So these catch statement will be based on exception type, not on the methods. Sorry, I'm sorry. Clear?
So in this method, we are handling that it should throw the exception. But previously, what we were doing is it was handling it and still executing the application or this code. And with this one, with this new method,
Mm-hmm.
you're using throw exception.
Mm-hmm.
So it is just throwing the exception one. It is getting failed.
Yeah, yeah. Whenever an exception is occurring here in any of the method, it will just throw from here and expects that that exception will be handled in the calling class. Like for us, main is the calling class, main is the calling method, and these are the called methods, right? So what we are doing is, instead of handling exception in the called method, sorry, yeah, instead of handling exception in the called methods, we are handling them in calling method. Benefit we get is that not all will be executed. Like if an exception is occurring in login, I don't want add and close to be executed. So an exception occurs here, code will come out of this, will go to catch, and these two remaining one will not execute at all. But if there is no exception, then all the four will execute flawlessly.
So what's the use of it? Because if you don't use the exception, in any case, it will throw the exception
No,
error
we are using
and it will not
exception.
execute it.
We are using exceptions. It's just that instead of handling there in the called method, we are handling here. Here you can see we are
I know. I
handling.
know.
Yeah,
In previously, we were ignoring those error and it was still executing.
uh,
And we
ignoring.
want it to execute it although there is an error.
No, no, no. That's not what we want. We want that if login is failing, then add customer should not execute. That is what I'm trying to achieve here.
Okay. Even in my code, you have seen in the assignment, I have thrown the exception for the sleep.
Mm-hmm.
There's a one line
Mm-hmm.
thread sleep. So it wasn't. It was giving me exception error. So I handle it, and I wanted it to go to sleep for a few seconds and then come back, so that it should execute some of the code.
Okay, you're getting a little confused here. See, that is okay. I'll try to explain. See, when you put thread.sleep, it prompts you that you have an unhandled exception, that is IO exception. You just put a throws keyword and or try catch. It started working, right? It was not throwing any error then, right? This is what happened, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so that is exceptional handling. That means you are handling the exception. That means you are telling that this exception can occur, handle it, And handling is like this only, putting try catch, and in catch statement you can do whatever you wish for. You can put any system out.println, or you want some cleanup to happen, or you want some other method to be called or something like that. You can do that. That method will only execute if actually an exception occurs. Okay, so there is a difference. As in the thread.sleep method, it is written that it should throw an exception. Your compiler is prompting you to throw an exception, uh, to handle an exception. But
Yeah.
that will only be executed, or this catch statement will be executed if an exception will occur. Like in this example, if I just change the code not to throw any exception, it does not mean that I don't need any exceptional handling then. Then also I need an exceptional handling. It's just that if an exception will occur, then only that will execute. So here in this case, you will see that none of the catch statement executed, all the code worked fine. So exceptional handling is just to make sure if an exception occurs, then what to do. It's not that it will always execute. Okay, it will only execute if an exception is occurring. Why your compiler is
Okay, got it.
prompting? Because your method was written in such a way that it is expecting you to handle it. Now, uh, after handling, execution depends on if actually an exception is occurring or not. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So that's all about throws keyword. Any questions now? Okay. Then comes the last part of this exceptional handling, and that is throw keyword. Now, what does throw keyword is? Throw keyword is used to explicitly throw customized exception. Okay. Let's say you don't want the exceptions which are predefined to be thrown. You want your own exception to be thrown. Say, for example, there is a just consider an example that you are handling three different browsers, maybe Internet Explorer, then Chrome browser, and Firefox browser. Okay, you just handling these three browsers, and somebody asks you or somebody was passing the parameter as Safari browser. Now, Safari browser you don't handle, you don't uh, handle this Safari browser. Now there is no uh, predefined error in that case. I mean, there is no predefined exception for this. Then in this particular case, if you want to throw your own customized error, you can do that using throw keyword. I'll just tell you how. Okay, so I'll just create another class, and let's say I'll call it throw example. Okay, and here let's say I'll call this public void, and one method I'm creating is invoke browser. Okay, and I'll be using throws keyword here. This throw keyword can be used with throws as well as with try catch. Okay, and let's say this method is parameterized. We are passing this browser type in the method, and here we are putting if condition stating if browser type dot equals ignore case, and if it is equal to Chrome, I'll simply say for now I'm not actually doing anything, I'm just printing just to give you an example, invoking Chrome. Okay, then I'll put else if, copy this, else if browser ignore case, and if it is equals to Firefox, invoking Firefox. And then Third one, let's say IE. So I'll say invoking IE. And then at the end, I'm putting another condition, else if any of these browser does not match, then what to do? Then I'll say that new throw new exception. So I'm creating my own exception stating invalid browser type. Okay. So at the end, I'm just saying throw new exception saying invalid browser type. Okay. So when we'll put an example, I mean another class, if I'll put demo throw keyword, throw example, we'll put this public static void main checked, and here I'll say throw example. Let's say te equal to new throw example, and it will be te dot invoke browser, and let's say here I'm passing Safari. See, it is stating me to handle the exception. Why? Because there we have used throw keyword, right? Throws keyword. So I'll just put it in try catch block, and when I execute this code, you will see an exception is occurring, and what it is saying. Let's see. See, it gives you the complete format just like other exceptions, and here it is saying invalid browser type. Okay, so this is the message where it is occurring in throwable example.java line number 14. So if I click on it, see here, from here it is coming, and actual it is coming from here. So you have to go from down to up to reach to the exact line where exception is occurring. Okay, so here you can see that how an exception is uh, thrown, which was not defined, but we want a customized error to be thrown. I wanted one customized exception, so I just used a keyword called throw. Okay, throw new exception. Clear? Any questions?
So it is compulsory that whenever we use the throw keyword
Mm-hmm.
and in the call method, we have to use try and catch.
No, as I told you, okay, you're talking about throw keyword or throws keyword. When you are putting throws keyword, then it is mandatory to put a try catch. Okay, at the
Okay.
last, because say, see, it might happen that in this this is not a main method, and here you're calling the method. Okay, then from here also you can throw. But at the end, when you are at the last position in the last method, generally that will be a main method itself. In that, try catch is compulsory. Okay, this you will see in detail when we'll do frameworks. There we will, I mean, I'll I'll be throwing methods. I mean, throwing exception in multiple methods.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, yeah. So this is all about throw keyword, and here exceptional handling also ends. Okay, so any questions now? Okay, so this is
So
all
you
about
have mentioned about the
yeah,
you have
sorry.
mentioned about the throws, and there's another one throw.
Uh-huh.
So what what does throw do?
What does throw do? Yeah, I told you na here only. Throws is, see, this throw method, throw, here when you have to explicitly
Okay, now
throw
there.
any
Sorry.
customized exception which is not a standard one, then you can throw using throw new exception.
Okay, sorry for that. Okay.
It's okay. Any questions, Sandhya?
And now, Sarah.
Okay, fine. So let's move on to the next scenario. So next we will be doing is selenium. Okay, I'll come back to the selenium methods and we'll start doing selenium things. So let's see what all our things are covered and we'll start with the remaining ones. Okay, so okay, so working with forms and its elements are done for you. Working with tables somewhat is done. Let me see. So add customer, get customer ID was also done. Add account was also done, right? So that means this is done. Working with drop down is done. Then we have to work with lists. So let's start with this example, that is working with lists. Okay. And is wait command done in your batch? Do you remember, Jishan?
Yeah, I think so. We have used wait command.
There were three
Can you
waits.
open that one?
There were three waits. One is implicit wait, page load timeout, and explicit wait.
I think so. We have done that. Yeah,
Okay.
page two. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So just go through the recording then, and I mean recall it. It's a very important topic. So I'll start with working with lists then. Frame handling was done. No, I guess. Okay, so
No,
so from list we have to start. Okay. Okay, should I continue with list or should I start with frame handling? Let me start with the frame handling. So I'll cover frame handling and window handling and alert handling. These three top topics I'll take. Okay. So frame handling and alert handling I'll take together, and then we'll move on to this multiple window. Okay. So let's
and
start.
we'll do the list later.
Yeah, a list will do after this.
Okay.
Okay. Because list will take almost 1 hour, and we'll see if we can cover today. Otherwise, these three topics uh, are also important. So, and they're easy also. So let me first complete them. So let's start with the frame handling. What is a frame? Frame or iframe in Java, in HTML, you either call them frame or you can call them iframes. And first of all, what they are used for. Okay, so I'll just give you one example before I move on to that. So for that, I'll go to W3 schools. Okay, and in W3 schools, there is one URL or one example. If you go to the normal page and search for alert handle, you'll get this page. Else, I'm just sending this URL in your chat box. You can just save it. Okay, now in this, if you'll see, there is a tried button. When I click on this tried button, you will see an alert is opening. Okay, so what is this alert? What does an alert means? Alert is something which blocks your browser to do anything else. See, you cannot do anything else until you get rid of this alert. Alert is just like a message. It prompts to give you a message or a warning. You can either accept that alert or you can reject that alert by using an escape keyword. Okay, either you can accept an alert or you can reject an alert. Okay, but you have to get rid of this alert before proceeding. So this is one thing. Also, if I check its HTML code, if I go to uh, if I go to Firebug, and if I check its HTML code, you will observe that this button is here. If you see, there is an HTML page. I mean, if you can see properly, it's an HTML page which is there inside another HTML page. So how is this possible? This is possible because of this iframe. Iframe is used to embed another HTML page in a normal HTML page. So in one HTML page, if you want to embed another HTML page, that can be done through iframes. Okay, why you need iframes? I'll give you certain example which will give you a good idea that yes, embedding another HTML page will be a good idea. Just consider an example that you have a website and you want to give the location of your business to your users using Google Maps. Okay, so what you'll do, you will take out your location and Google Maps give you one HTML page with a frame, and you can just come here and put that frame in your website. So that Google Map will start coming in your Google Map will start coming in your website. So how it is possible? This is possible because of iframes. What it do, it can be helpful in embedding another page in your normal website, on your normal page. Like here in this example, I took out one page from Google Map and embedded that in my website, in my web page. Okay, one example. Another example, let's say in your HTML page you want to embed YouTube video. Okay, again YouTube is a video which comes from YouTube. So how can you embed that? That can be embedded through, again, using iframes. So generally iframes are used to embed another page from maybe another website to your normal page. Or if you want one section of your website to behave separately, then also you can use this iframes. Clear? Any questions? Okay, so moving on, how to handle them now. So here you can see that you're getting multiple HTML pages now. Like there is a main HTML page, then there is another HTML page inside. That means there are multiple HTML page to be handled. So how does Selenium work in that case? Selenium uh, cannot identify both the pages or elements of both the pages. Okay, it can only identify elements from the main page. Okay, if you want to inspect or to find elements inside another page, okay, inside another page or inside a frame, then you have to switch to that frame to identify the elements. Okay, so that's what we are going to learn now. So what I'm saying is that Selenium cannot identify the elements which are there in a frame, inside a frame. So for that, what you have to do is you have to first switch to that frame and then proceed. Okay, so in this I'll create a class and I'll call it alert and frame handling for your purpose. Okay, we'll put this public static void main checked. I'll just write the complete code inside only, and I'll go to any one website and just copy the initial part, that is invoking browser part. Okay, so I'll just copy this uh, till this. I'll just copy and paste it here. I'll remove it. So here what we have done is just initializing the browser. Okay, setting the system path for this using the Chrome, then maximizing, deleting all cookies, setting the page load timeout and implicit wait, and then I'll copy this URL, paste it here. So this will invoke the browser till this. Okay, now once you have navigated to this, now you want to switch to this frame. Okay, once you switch to this frame, then you can identify the elements inside that. That means you can identify this tried button. Okay, so how to switch to a frame? Driver dot, there is a method called switch to dot frame. Now frame is an overloaded method. Here you can see there are three methods. One is frame with an integer argument, second is a frame with string argument, and third one is a frame with web element argument. The first one, that is frame with an integer argument, is like switching to a frame based on index. Okay, there can be multiple frames on a page, so every frame has an index 1 2 3 4. So you can switch to them using the index id. Okay, say uh, not a good idea using an integer, because uh, it because your frames may change the location, so not a good idea to use integer. Then we have second one, which is where we are passing the string. Okay, so string is whenever a frame has an id associated with it, you can directly pass that id. That will be the second option. So if a frame uh, does has an id, you can simply switch using that string. But if a frame does not have an ID, then you have to identify your frame as a web element, and then only you can switch. So if you see the third option, that is web element, so that you can only use when uh, you can only use when you that you have to use when you don't have an ID. Okay, if you have an ID, directly give the ID and switch. If you don't have an ID, then use the third option. Going forward, I'll give you one example where we'll be switching with the third option. Okay, clear? Any question? Okay, so here I'm using the second one, that is passing the string argument. And now I have switched to this particular frame. Now I can identify this tried button because I have to click on it so that this exception can occur. Oh, sorry, this alert can occur. So here I'll say driver dot find element by dot. If you look at this button does not have anything, but its type is button, and you can see on in this frame there is no other button associated. So can I use by dot tag name, and I'll pass button in it, and what you have to do with it, you just have to click on it. So it will go and click on this tried button. So as soon as you click on this tried button, this comes up. That means an alert comes up, and when you have to handle an alert, again Selenium don't does not switch directly to the alert. You have to write that logic in your code. So here also I'll write, so I'll say driver dot switch to dot where you have to switch to an alert. So I'll say switch to alert. Now we have switched to this alert. Okay, this switching you can do it directly, or you can simply save that in a variable of an interface called alert, and then on this alert you can perform certain operations, like you can accept an alert, or you can dismiss an alert, or you can get message from an alert. So let's say I'm saying alert dot get. To get the message, we have method called get text. So what does this get text do? This get text will give you the text, and dismiss will dismiss the alert. Okay, so after you have accepted or rejected an alert, then the flow will or you the control will come back to the window automatically. Okay, you don't have to do in case of alerts, but in case of frames, if you are inside a frame and you want to come back, then for that there is a method driver dot switch to dot, the method name is default content. So if you want to come back to here I'll say switching back to parent page from an alert, from a frame. Okay, this is used, that is default content. So I'll just keep it commented, because otherwise that button click will not work. Okay, so when you have to come back from a frame to your normal page, you will use default content, whereas if you want to come back from an alert, then you will You don't have to put anything, it will automatically come back. So when I execute this code, so it will execute. Okay, and it will be too quick because okay, some exception has occurred, I guess. Okay. Actually, I have copy pasted that Chrome and the path was changed. It was changed to Chrome driver. I forget to change this. So this accepting and rejecting an alert will be too quick, so you might not be able to see, but we have got the message in between, so you'll get that message. So it is too quick actually. So it might have see here it has executed. Hello, I'm an alert box. Okay, so just to see it properly, I'll just put a thread dot sleep. After getting the text, I'll say thread dot sleep. But and let's say for 3 seconds I'm halting, but it is expected to throw any exception. So I'll just put the complete code and try catch block. Okay. Now when I execute this code, you will see alert. Okay, so that's all in alert handling and frame handling. Any questions? It's very simple. When you have to switch to any frame, method is switch to frame. There are three ways: either through uh, either through index, either through if it has an ID, or if it does not have an ID, then you can identify the frame as a web element and then switch. So going forward, I'll give you an example of third one. First, you can ignore because based on index switching is not preferred. Okay, so any questions now? Okay, fine. Moving on. Okay, so let's have a break now and then we'll continue with the third one, that is window handle. So see you after 7 minutes. So moving on to the next topic, next we have is window handling. So I'll take another example for that. Okay. So what does I mean when I'm saying window handling? Here, if you can see the uh, same type of example, and here when I click on tried button, a new window is getting open. Okay, a new window or a new tab. In Selenium, for Selenium, a new tab or a new window is exactly same. So they'll be handled quite similar. That is a new window or a new tab. Both are handled quite same, quite similarly. Okay, so now why you need, see, when I clicked on this tried button, you will see that browser has taken me to the new window. Okay, my control has automatically switched to the new window, and I'm on this new window now. Whatever I have to do, I'll do here, and or I can go back. Okay, but in Selenium, the control does not go automatically to the new window. Why? Because Selenium works on uh, something known as session ID, or you can call it window handle. That is a unique value which is used to identify a particular window. So currently, for Selenium, if we are here, it is identifying this window using that session ID. When you click on this tried button, session ID has not changed, or window handle has not changed. We have to write the code to switch to this new window and do whatever we wish to, and then come back. We have to write this code separately. Okay, so for that I'll just close all of these, and yeah, in day 13, okay, I'll create another class and I'll call it window handling. Okay, again I'll put this public static void main checked, and starting code will remain same till navigating to, okay, my bad. Till this, the code will remain same. Okay, here you can see first of all um, we are initializing the Chrome browser, then we are setting the properties, and then Chrome browser window switching to that. I mean, the same code we have done, only URL we need to change. So I'll just copy this URL and put it there. Okay, and after we switch to, like, after I click on this, this new window is opening. Okay, and I told you that these windows are identified by Selenium using one session ID or window handle. Okay, so that means when you are switching to this new window, then you should know how to come back to this old one. Okay, there should be one criteria to come back to this old one as well. Okay, so for that, what we'll do, before I click on this tried button, I'll save the information of the old window. So I'll call it as parent window. Okay, and it will be driver dot. There is a method called get window handle. Okay, what does this method do? This get window handle method returns you the window handle or session ID of this window. And how does that look like? I'll just show you by printing it. Okay, I'll say here. Okay, so this get window handle method, what does do it do? It, you can see it the mm, I mean, the return type of this method is a string, and what does it return? It returns the session ID or window handle of the parent window, or this window which you are at. which Selenium is using to identify it. Okay, so we got the parent window information. After that, we have to switch to this frame and then click on try it button. So that's exactly same as the old one. So I'll just switch to frame and click on that button. So I'll come here and we'll switch to that frame and then we will click on that button. Okay, once I click on that button, a new window or a new tabs open up. Now we have to switch to this new tab. How will we do that? It will be like this: driver dot switch to dot window, and this window expects one session ID. Okay, it expects one session ID or window handle, whatever you want to call. Okay, so which session ID we want? We want session ID from child window. And how will we get? I'll show you. So for that, what I'll do, I'll create one string variable and I'll call it child window. Okay. And how does this child window will be handled? So will this child window will pass here, but we need to enter the value in it. So it will be child window equal to, on my driver, I'll call a method called get window handles. Okay, what does this get window handles do? This method returns us a set of session IDs, a set of all the session IDs of all the windows which are open at that time. So just consider, I mean, don't consider any window which is opened manually. I'm just talking about the windows which are opened through Selenium code. So let's say this window is opened, and when I click on try it button, how many windows are there? There are two windows now. So this get window handles method returns us a set. If you hover over it, I mean, if you hover over this, it okay. If you hover over it now, it gives you. If you hover over it now, you can see it. The return type of this method is a set of string. That means it returns us a set of all the windows of it returns us a set of session IDs of all the windows which are open at that time. Okay, now as you know, like we have already studied sets, you know that sets does not have any index. That means I cannot access 1 or 2 using 0, 1, 2. I cannot access. So what I'll do to access through index, I'll convert that into an array. Okay, if you look at the return type of an array, it will be an object. Okay, now return type is object. So the values which are there in that set, the first one will go in the first, second will go in the second one. Okay, and we can access its first element. Why? Because if you convert a set into an array, the first one will go into 0, second one will go into first index. So here you can see I just passed index as 1. That means my um, it is going in uh, index 1, and then you have to convert that into string. So after you convert that into string, you get the session ID in form of a string. Now I have a string value. So that string value I'm putting into child window, and we are switching to that child window. I'll quickly repeat what I have done. See, when I was here, I called a method called get window handle, which returned me the session ID of this window. Once I click on this try it button, now there are two windows which are open. Okay, and I told you that in Selenium the control still remains here. That means there is no way you can get the session ID from this. So for that, what we can do is we can get the session ID of all the windows which are opened. So currently for us there are two windows which are opened. Okay, you get session ID of both. That returns a set. So the method name is get window handles. It returns us a set. What we'll do, we'll convert that set into an array. Okay, so an array will be created with size 2. Why 2? Because the first one will have, I mean, there will be two values only. First one will have session ID of this, second one will have a session ID of this, but it returns us an object. Okay, so uh, you can access its first element because this will be at 0, this will be at 1. So this is the array, right? This is an array. You can put a square bracket and access its elements. So I just put 1. This gives me a way to access the first element. So I accessed first element and then I converted it into a string. So calling a method called toString. What does this method do? It converts that object value into a string. Okay, and we got a string, and that we are putting in a child window, and then we are calling the method called driver.switch2.window and passing this child window. Okay, so this way we can switch to a window. So we switch to this child window now, and now you can do whatever you wish here. So I can simply print the title, so I can say get title. Okay, so we got the title from this window, and then uh, you can simply close this window. So how to close a simple window? It will be driver dot close. This way you can close this window. Once you close this, you're back. I mean, once you close that, uh, Windows Selenium does not automatically switch to this window. You have to separately write the code. And how can you write the code? It will be driver dot switch to dot window, which window I want to switch to my parent window. So I'll switch to parent window. Again, you can get the title. So you'll see in both the cases, the title is different. And then we can simply say driver dot quit. Okay. So any questions till now in the complete code? Anyone? Sandhya or Jishan? Any questions here?
Yes, Saurabh. So, you child window you declared as string, right? Why did you do that? Like instead you can declare it as in integer, right? Um,
Integer?
again, yeah,
No,
here
no,
that
no,
child window.
no, no.
Uh,
See, this switch window, this method called switch window, uh, switch to dot windows. This method expects session ID, and that section ID is always a string. That's why I've put it as a string, not a one two. I mean index. So see here, what we are doing is
okay.
we're getting a set, converting that into an array, then accessing its first value. Okay, and then converting it into string. So this is accessing its first value. That value is in form of object. If you check the return type of this toArray method, you will see that its return type is an object array. Okay, when you are accessing its first element, that means you are accessing uh, an object array, its first element, and then you are converting that into string. Okay,
Okay, got it. Thank you.
okay, yeah. So
Sora,
yeah, Jishan.
into array, we aren't we hard coding it by mentioning one index?
For now, yes. Going forward, when we'll do the framework, that will then we'll write a method where we can access any array. I mean, one, two, three, any array you can access, any window you can access. So let's say if you have 4 or 5 windows, maybe 3 windows are open, and you want to switch to the second one, then it will be 0, 1, 2, right? So you will pass this 2. If you want to switch to this, you will pass 1. If you want to remain here, that then anyways you are. But for my scenario, as of now, I just wanted to switch to the first index. That means the second window now. So that's why I did
That
this
is
way.
fine. I just wanted to know if can we make it dynamically
Yes,
in the
yes, you
future.
you can make it dynamic just passing an integer variable here. That will do in near future. I mean, in the frameworks, we'll do that.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so just pass a variable, and whatever variable that value will have, I mean, variable, whatever value that variable will have, it will switch to that.
Okay.
Okay, then I'll just quickly execute this code. Okay, it will open alert. No, not this. Just a second. Control Shift Control S, and then execute this. Okay, so you can see that it has switched to window, and now you can see that this is how the session ID looks like. It's alphanumeric value of 64-bit, and this is how it looks like. Okay, any questions now?
We couldn't see that window open up and switch to another window and then close it.
It will be very
Nothing we
quick
could see.
actually. It would be very quick. I'll just put a yeah. So once I switch, I'll put a thread.sleep here. Okay, here before closing, I'll put a thread.sleep. It will be very quick. 5 seconds, let's say, break, and I have to put the complete code in. Okay, now let's execute. So you can see it has switched, and then it closed the one, and then printed the title and closed the other one as well. Okay, again it was too quick, otherwise it has closed one by one only. Okay, any questions now, Jishan or Sandhya?
Sorry, Saurabh, I missed you.
Any questions?
No, no, no.
Okay, so Jishan, you have any question?
No question.
Okay. Okay, fine. So this is also done. Window handling is also done. Again, it's a very important topic. Interviewers ask questions like, how can you switch to window? So they are just expecting this single line of code. That's all. Okay, very important, and only question comes up is this. So just go through it couple of times. You'll remember it. Okay, and yeah. What else? Then okay. So
Sir,
yes.
would you be able to teach us in the future whenever you like drag and drop?
Sorry. I
Drag and
didn't.
drop, how to
Yeah,
handle that?
I was coming to the next topic only. So here iframe is done, multiple window is done, alert handling is done. Okay, and then I guess a mouse over was done for you using that what do you call uh, uh, when I was teaching this wait command, that time I might have covered this mouse over. Let me quickly see if I have covered or not.
I don't
Okay.
think so.
Uh, Day 7, yeah, I have covered. Mouse over, I have covered. In fact, frame and alert also I covered.
Yeah, I was just recalling that frame was not covered, but mouse over, I don't remember.
Mouse over was covered when I took an example of eBay where in that we were moving to mobile and accessories and then moving to some mobile link and clicking on it. Okay, so
Okay.
Anyways, I
The
always
drag and drop will be covered in this one.
no, drag and drop is not covered, so I'll just start with this. Okay, so this is done. Drag and drop I'll take. So the next topic I'll take is drag and drop itself. Okay, so for drag and drop, there is one website called jQuery UI, and there is a droppable page on it. Okay, here we have one section where we have one element, we have second element, we have to take this, move to the other one and drop it. Okay, so this is what we have to learn. That is drag and drop operation, and it's again a mouse operation, so you can do using actions class only. Okay, so for this I'll create a class and I'll call it drag and drop. Okay, we'll keep this public static void main checked. Okay, and I'll just copy this invoking browser till invoking browser and navigating to a URL, change the URL. Okay, okay, now when we are here, if I check its HTML code, I'll go to HTML, and if I check this, you will see that it's inside a frame. Okay, you can see it is an HTML page which is inside a frame. So we need to first switch to this frame, and then only we can identify the source and target. Okay, so first of all, to perform mouse operation we need actions class, so it will be actions action equal to new actions, and then here we need to pass the driver instance. Okay, and then also we need to switch to this frame first. So for that, driver dot switch to dot frame. Now here see, there are three ways: by passing an integer argument, by passing a string argument, and by passing in a web element. Integer, I told you that don't use integer because they are not a good way. Second, we have a string. String is when a frame has an ID, but this frame does not have an ID. That means I cannot use the second way also. That means I have only one option, that is switching to a frame using web element. Okay, so that means I have to identify this as a web element first. How can you do that? How you have to identify this frame as a web element. So here, just before this, I'll create one web element and I'll call it, let's say, frame element. Okay, equal to driver dot find element, and it will be by dot class name, and the value of class name is demo frame. So I'll just copy it. Okay, so we identified that frame as a web element by using this class name, and we'll pass this web element here. So in a way, we have switched to the frame. So any questions in this? So as I told you that I'll give you an example where we can switch to a frame using uh, you, by identifying the frame as a web element. This is the way. Okay, now there is I created an instance of actions class to perform this mouse operation, and next will be uh, so it will be action dot, there is a method called drag and drop from source to target. Okay, so that means I have to define the source and target as well. So let's define them. So it will be web element. Let's consider source will be driver dot find element by dot. So if you see this, this is my source. This is my source which has an ID, and the value of ID is draggable. So it will be by dot ID. The value of ID is draggable. This is my source. I'll copy it. I'll make it target. Okay, and this will be droppable. So I'll copy it, droppable. Now we have source, we have target, and uh, actions dot drag and drop source to target. And you know that whenever we do any actions, we need to build and perform. What does this build do? Uh, this will see what all actions you have to perform, and perform will actually perform them. So drag and drop will be done, and after that nothing else is required. So I'll just execute this code. So you can
So
see that
Saurabh, where this action is coming from?
action is actions class. There is a class called actions. I guess you were not present then in the mouse operation when we did mouse operation. Okay, I'll explain it again. Just give me a second. Okay, so yeah, actions class. See, to perform any mouse operation means whether it's a mouse, any mouse operation like right click, double click, or drag and drop. For all those methods, we use this actions class. Okay, so actions, action equal to new action is the syntax, and here we are passing the driver instance. Was what does that means? That means the mouse operation which I have to perform, I'll be performing on this browser instance. Then uh, this web element, I defined one source web element, I defined one target web element, and then action is the instance of this action class. So if you have to perform any mouse operation, be it drag and drop, be it double click, be it right click, or anything, then you will use this method called drag and this you will use this instance called action, this one. Okay, and then dot drag and drop, you pass source and target, so it will take source and target, it will just drag the source to target. And whenever you're creating any command in mouse, see, in mouse you can perform multiple operation together. If you just see this drag and drop also, it is like first move to this element, click, then move to this other element and drop. There are multiple methods which are clubbed together, right? So generally with action class we put this build method. What does that build method do? Whatever methods you are writing before it builds them. Builds them means it checks what all method you are expecting to perform. Just as I told you that move to this element, like here if you go, it is like move to this element, click, and then move to other and drop, right? So all those methods also we can write in sequence order. Build will build them, and perform will actually execute them. Okay, so this is how this actions class work. So you can go through the recordings there. We have discussed in detail how does this action class work, but I hope you got a good idea here. If you have any doubt, do let me know. I'll clear it.
So this class is what I can say is a default Java class, or
It's a Selenium
it's already
class.
been created. We just
No, no,
can
no.
instantiate it.
It's a Selenium class. I showed you. This is org.openqa.selenium.interactions. It's a class
Okay.
from Selenium which is specially used for mouse operations.
Okay.
Okay, so it has methods like move to element, drag and drop, double click, right click, and so on. Okay, so here it will perform the drag and drop. Okay, and as I was telling you that drag and drop can also be done in another way. That is, over here if you see, if I say move to this element, then click, hold, and then move to other element and drop. Right. So this also can be done. So for that, I'll just comment it out and write this drag and drop operation in other way. So I'll say move to element, which element? Source, then click and hold is a method. So here you can see click and hold is a method. Which one? Source only. Then move to target. Okay, and then release. Build dot perform. So here also you can see I clubbed multiple methods. What I'm doing, I'm moving to my source, clicking and holding the source, and then moving to target, and then releasing it. Build.perform will always be there. Build will actually compile all these, or you can say build all these commands, multiple commands, and perform will actually perform that. Okay. So when I execute this code, this will also perform the same drag and drop operation.
How we will do the multiple drag and drop,
Multiple drag and drop means
like multiple selection of items and move it to another location.
you can do one by one, I guess, not multiple.
Because
Can
there are options available for multiple drag and drop.
okay, then I'm not sure about that. Maybe I can look into it. Can you give me one example to practice? I mean, I don't remember anywhere where I can have multiple. Do you know any option
Maybe Jira,
in Jira? But I don't have Jira access. Okay, I'll see if I get this option and we'll try to see.
because we are building an application and we are thinking to add this functionality in the future.
Multiple drag and drop or normal drag and drop?
Multiple selection of the item and drag and drop it.
Okay, then I'll probably look into it if how can we do it. Okay,
Okay,
I guess it will be possible. Um, I'll see. I'll see. Give me some time. I'll look into it.
okay.
Okay. So yeah, that's also done. So you can see with this method also we have done the drag and drop operation. Okay. So any questions in this? Okay. One more thing. Uh, If you look here, before drag and drop, the color of this background was different. Once I do a drag and drop, color is different. Okay, that means uh, color property is getting changed. So how to get the color property? That is my next scenario. So I'll just cover up here only. Okay, so for that, before I do a drag and drop and after drag and drop, I'll just compare the uh, colors. Okay, so how can you get that? So here string, let's say color before uh, drag and drop, and it will be target dot target is my web element. When you have to get the color property, there is a method called get css value. Okay, and here you need to pass which property you want. So I want color property, so I'll just part color. Okay, how will you get which property you want to get? Just go to that website. Okay, and just right click and again now go to this css. Okay, in css all the CSS related things are written here. Okay, so if I check this element, it has a class this, so I'll try to search this class there in the CSS. So I'll come here and search these classes. So I don't find the both. Let me search one by one. Okay, so here you can see I got this widget header. Okay, but I want the other one also, right? So I'll just okay, it's not there. Probably I'll search this. Yeah, I got this. So this UI dot droppable and UI dot draggable, it has given background position but not the color. So maybe color will be in some other property. Okay, so here you can see the color property of this header. It's okay, it's the color property of the header. Maybe some default color will be there, then somewhere this color will be there, but you got to know that the parameter name is color. Okay, so the CSS value color, color, will define the color for this. So I'll just pass this color. This gives me the color of this this target, and same thing. So I'll just print it before. So I'll say before drag and drop. Okay, and then I'll just copy both the statements. Okay, and here I'll say color after drag and drop. Okay, when I execute this statement, you will see the different colors. Okay, so the drag and drop is performed, and if I go to, you can see both has given the different RGBA format, and then you can like before executing, you might be knowing before drag and drop what should be the color, and after drag and drop what should be the color, and then just put an assertion saying, I mean, just comparing whether after after drag and drop the correct color is coming or not. Okay, so this could be one assertion. The main purpose here was to tell you how to get any CSS value, be it color, be it background color, be it the size, or anything you will get using get CSS value. Okay, so that's all in this. Any questions now? Okay, so can I give you an assignment now? A small assignment you can practice. See, uh, for right click. Okay, I guess I need to search. Okay, I'll search. Just give me a second. One URL I need to search. I can search from my previous project. Mm, intent 11, 12. Mm,
This is a different uh, project you are.
sorry?
You're in a different project.
No, no, I was just searching one URL actually for I was thinking of giving you one assignment to do a right click. Okay, so for that I was just searching for one URL, but I guess it's not there in it. Let me quickly see once here also. Um, and day 5, day 6. No, I'm not getting that link. So probably then I'll send you a assignment as one on your mails. Okay, so then that's all for today. I guess we are done with most of the things. There is one list which we'll do next weekend. We have CSS selectors to do, and let me quickly see what else is left. So this one list will do, and that will take almost 1 hour because we'll be learning many scenarios in it. Working with list will learn, drag and that scroll down operation will learn. Okay, then validation I'll take along with test ng. Okay, mouse operation is done, drag and drop is done, cookies handling is not required, JavaScript execution will be done with that scenario I was taking, screenshot will do with the frameworks, exceptional handling we are done, integration auto ID is one left, that will do tomorrow. Uh, Exceptional handling in Selenium also we have to do. So in the next class, we'll complete first list, then we'll complete exceptional handling, integration with auto ID. So these three topics will be done by next Saturday, and Sunday will start with TestNG. Okay, so Sunday and the next one Saturday will take TestNG, and then we'll start with the frameworks. Okay, just one thing, Jishan, like once this frameworks will be done, I mean, I'll take frameworks parallelly in, I mean, I'll take frameworks uh, separately in your batch. Can you just attend two classes from 10:30 to 12:30 after maybe 3 weeks? Just two classes.
After 3 weeks.
After
Uh,
2 or 3 weeks, yeah.
what will be the Sydney time?
Uh, Sydney time will be just half an hour after this. I mean, what's the time now?
It's 3:30.
Yeah, so it will be 4 to 6, 4 to 6, yeah. Just two classes.
Okay.
Because I'll be
Okay.
covering cucumber there, and cucumber is a separate topic, so won't affect anything. So I don't have to cover it again in your batch. And for you also, batch will over a little early.
But how would I manage that? Like, if I have a framework, then I can implement the Cucumber, right? Before implementing the framework,
Uh,
I
cuc-
won't be able to use Cucumber.
no, no, no. It's not like that. Frameworks are separate. I'll first teach you cucumbers, and then we'll integrate with frameworks. Okay. So learning
Okay.
cucumber is separate. So for those two classes, I'm asking when we have to integrate with framework. That anyways will do once your framework will be done.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So that would be on 9th of December.
Um, I'm not sure when, but yeah, after a couple of weeks. Maybe 3 weeks. I'll inform you by next because I'm not sure when frameworks will get over in the next batch. Most probably, three or more classes are required, and today I'm not taking that class.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so